Welcome to this video. Today we talk about Mandy Stavik. Make sure you are subscribe and like. Let's get started. Introduction. It's 1989. In the small, peaceful town of Whatcom County, Washington, an 18-year-old woman named Mandy Stavik sets out for what seems like an ordinary morning jog. What should have been a simple run in the quiet neighborhood turned into one of the most chilling and mysterious disappearances in the area. What Mandy's family and the local community did not know at the time was that her disappearance would haunt them for 29 long years before the truth would finally be uncovered. Today, we are going to dive deep into the unbelievable story of Mandy Stavik's murder, a story that shocked the community and left authorities baffled for years. And we'll explore how advanced technology, which wasn't available back in the late 80s, ultimately helped reveal the identity of the killer. Mandy Stavik was a promising young woman. She had just completed her freshman year at the University of Washington, where she was excelling academically. Having recently graduated from high school, Mandy was known for her athletic abilities and was actively involved in sports. Among her favorite activities was running, which was part of her daily routine. But on November 24, 1989, as she went out for her usual run near her family's home, she disappeared without a trace. Her family, growing increasingly worried as the hours passed, contacted the authorities. Soon, a large-scale search effort involving friends, neighbors, and local volunteers was underway, but there was no sign of Mandy. Days turned into a week, and despite extensive searches, no clues or leads turned up. It wasn't until December 1, 1989, that Mandy's lifeless body was discovered in the Nooksack River, several miles from her home. Her tragic death would set off a chain of events that would remain unsolved for decades. The discovery of her body. The discovery of Mandy's body sparked even more questions than answers. At first, authorities suspected that Mandy might have accidentally drowned while running along the river. But as the investigation progressed, it quickly became clear that this was no accident. The results of the autopsy revealed something far more sinister. Mandy had not only drowned, but she had also been sexually assaulted before her death. With this new information, the case shifted from a potential accident to a full-fledged homicide investigation. Yet, despite numerous interviews, extensive searches, and months of intense efforts to gather evidence, the police came up empty-handed. The murder of Mandy Stavik left the entire town in shock and disbelief, and the case remained an open wound for her family and the community for years to come. The case remains unsolved. For years, the case remained unsolved. The police had no solid leads, no witnesses, and no physical evidence that could point to the killer. Over time, as other crimes and investigations took precedence, the case became a cold one. However, the memories of Mandy's death lingered in the hearts of her family and the town, and there was still a glimmer of hope that the mystery might one day be solved. As the years passed, the use of DNA technology began to evolve. By the early 2000s, advancements in forensic science and DNA analysis gave hope to detectives working on cold cases. With DNA evidence collected from Mandy's body at the time of her death, there was the possibility that someday, science might help identify the killer. Yet, despite the promise of modern forensics, no progress was made. There were no new suspects, no new breakthroughs, and the case remained an open mystery. But in 2018, nearly 30 years after Mandy's tragic death, something incredible happened. A breakthrough in forensic technology would change everything. The breakthrough in 2018. Thanks to the incredible advancements in forensic techniques, particularly the rise of genealogical DNA testing, the investigation took a new turn. Police had DNA from the crime scene, which had been preserved over the years. Using genealogical DNA databases, the police were able to trace distant relatives of potential suspects. This process involved comparing the DNA from the crime scene to publicly available genetic databases, such as those used by ancestry websites. The police discovered a match. The DNA found at the crime scene closely resembled the DNA of a relative of Timothy Bass, a man who had lived in the area at the time of Mandy's murder. Bass was immediately placed under scrutiny, and after further investigation, the evidence led authorities to charge him with the murder of Mandy Stavik. Timothy Bass, who was 52 years old at the time of his arrest in 2018, had lived in the same community where Mandy grew up. Although he had a history of suspicious behavior and was known to have committed other crimes in the past, he had never been connected to Mandy's case before. This new forensic technology, however, allowed investigators to identify him as the prime suspect and ultimately the killer. The arrest of Timothy Bass marked the turning point in this long unsolved case, and it brought a sense of relief to the Stavik family, who had waited decades for justice. The arrest and legal proceedings. The arrest of Timothy Bass was both a relief and a shock to the Stavik family. While they had hoped for justice for years, the reality of the person responsible for their daughter's death finally being named was overwhelming. Bass was formally charged with the sexual assault and murder of Mandy Stavik in 2019, and the case went to trial. During the legal proceedings, Bass's defense team tried to argue that the DNA evidence wasn't enough to prove his guilt. But the prosecution presented a strong case based on not only the DNA evidence but also circumstantial evidence that tied him to the crime. Ultimately, Timothy Bass was convicted of Mandy's murder, and the case was officially closed, bringing a sense of finality to a tragedy that had plagued the Stavik family for nearly 3 decades. Aftermath and the impact on the community. For the Stavik family, the resolution of the case was bittersweet. They had spent 29 long years without answers, and while they were grateful for the justice that had finally come, the pain of losing their daughter never truly went away. Mandy's mother, father, and sister all expressed a mixture of relief, sorrow, and gratitude to those who had helped solve the case. The case also had a profound impact on the community of Whatcom County. While the residents had been living with the fear and uncertainty of Mandy's murder for years, they could now find some peace knowing that the killer had been identified and brought to justice. The use of new forensic techniques, particularly genealogical DNA testing, also sparked a larger conversation about the importance of continued advancements in technology to solve cold cases. Mandy's case is a powerful reminder that, even in the most puzzling and heartbreaking cases, the pursuit of justice can be carried out through innovation. It also highlighted the importance of preserving evidence and continuing to use emerging technologies to solve cases that would otherwise remain unsolved. Closing. This was the story of Mandy Stavik's tragic death and how technology, after nearly 3 decades, helped bring her killer to justice. What do you think about the role of DNA testing and genealogical research in solving cold cases like Mandy's? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you're fascinated by true crime stories and the advancements in forensic science, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more in-depth coverage of real-life mysteries. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.